Over the last couple of weeks, there have been major incidents of backlash and reputation damage. The Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes have returned to service now after, a door plug flew off on Alaska Airlines flight. Sports Illustrated reportedly published articles by fake AI-generated writers.
But it's not just companies that deal with backlash in the public eye. Some of America's most prestigious Ivy League schools under fire for its handling of anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents on campus. This morning, we're joined by co-founder of Tanner Friedman, Matt Friedman, and CEO of the Lee Group, Mark Estley. Thanks for coming in this morning, gentlemen. Before we get to the meat of this, Mark, it's customary for you to give a Lions shout-out.
Okay, I survived it, but let me just say this. What an outstanding team, what an outstanding city for supporting an outstanding team. I was in Florida yesterday, got back in time, just in time for the game. I want to say thank you very much, Detroit Lions, for an outstanding season. And to Detroit Nation, we love you as well. I'm humbled and I'm touched. Go Lions.
There you go.
It was a great season indeed.
Okay, now you guys are here to talk some business. So, Matt, what are some of the common mistakes that companies are making?
I think what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is what we see quite often, and it's unfortunate because a reputation is really hard to build, but it's really easy to see it damaged. And companies still, they refuse to learn the lessons of others, and they say too little out of fear quite often. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing instead of focusing on saying the right things over and over again to their audiences. And that's why people like us are talking about it on shows like this instead of these problems getting solved.
All right, and Matt touched on this, when a company makes a mistake, right? What do? What should you do? What should you say and what should you not say at that point?
I think Matt hit on a good point. People are not transparent. What they're trying to do is to hide the issue. I encourage organizations to be very transparent, be open, be frank, be honest. And what happens is they're trying to hide the issues. And unfortunately, when you do that, the truth is going to come out, and it's going to have that lack of trust is going to be permeated.
And often makes things worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just doesn't work when you think, well, it's going to go away. I've heard clients or people within client organizations say this in tough times. Well, it'll blow over. They'll move on to something else. And it just doesn't work that way in the real world. It's wishful thinking, but we try to deal in reality when we coach our clients in these situations.
All right, let's take a look at Boeing. They just got the Boeing 737 MAX 9s back in the air after the incident with the door plug flying off a few weeks ago. How hard is it for a company like that to regain trust after a major incident like that? And in the airline industry, I mean, are we kind of forced just to use them anyway? Like, does that really have a lot of negative backlash on them?
Well, as a consumer, we can buy our airline tickets, we can pick our airline to some extent. We can't pick the manufacturer of the plane. We have to trust the airline for that. In the airline business, and I started my PR career by representing an airline, so we learned a lot about this years ago. There's a lot of trust, more than there is in the rest of society. Otherwise, we couldn't get on a plane, which is something that would be inherently dangerous. So we have to trust the government, we have to trust the airline to make sure that they have bought a safe plane for us and they're keeping it safe, and that the government regulators are overseeing all of this the right way. But just a little bit of mistrust can lead to big problems for anybody in that industry, and that's why the government has been really aggressive in communicating. Boeing, been less aggressive publicly. Makes me wonder, though, behind the scenes maybe where they're putting their efforts in government affairs and talking directly to the airlines that buy their planes.
People need to understand that consumers have choices. And if I find there's a trust issue and you have issues that I don't feel comfortable with, I can take my money elsewhere. So businesses need to understand that consumers do have choices, and that's why you have to be transparent and fully straightforward with your customers.
And how difficult is it to regain trust after an incident like that, like what we've seen with Alaska Airlines?
It's really hard. I mean, one of the questions I'll ask clients in crisis on a daily basis is, are we closer to the beginning? Are we closer to the end? Because it's an incremental process, day by day, week by week, month by month sometimes in a big crisis. The companies that just want it to go away and they think that they can issue a statement and everything will be fine are sorely mistaken. It takes a long time and a lot of communication over and over and over again for customers, for consumers, for regulators, for really any audience to regain their feelings that they used to have about a company once they've deteriorated.
Mark, is there any positive that can come out of negative publicity?
Is there any what?
Positives that can come out of negative publicity.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think some people will say any publicity is good news, right? It's not. It's not. It's not, not at all. The positive can be you reconnect with your customers. The positive can be make sure you go back to basics, focus on basics, rebuild that trust, be open and communicate with them. Do not hide, do not slide anything under the rug, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose business and your reputation will take significant damage.
So it could be more internally in that business that the positive comes out of the way they handle these
Absolutely right.
situations.
That's right.
You know, Mark mentioned rebuilding that trust, but what about rebuilding your reputation? I mean, I'm assuming that that takes, in some instances, months, often years, right, to do?
It can. It really depends on what caused all this in the first place and how a company decides to react to it. I think the biggest change that I've seen in the last few years is that businesses of all sizes just think that they can put a statement out on social media or issue a press release, and that's going to be like waving a magic wand. And it doesn't work that way. Yes, you look at social media, and that shapes our perceptions about businesses. But that's just one way of communicating. And when we get into a crisis situation, we have to look at the full menu and all the options of communicating and probably do everything and communicate to every audience very intentionally over that period of time, Sandra, to get these things fixed and to get audiences to understand what a company is trying to do to make sure that something like whatever happened doesn't happen again. And that gets lost sometimes in today's environment where everybody is so written statement oriented.
Yeah. You know, and that's comment I was going to say real quick is you can't overpromise and under-deliver as well.
You know,
Yes.
we've kind of been focusing on companies here. I'm curious when it comes to schools, post-secondary education. They've been in some hot water, especially Ivy Leagues lately, about how they've handled certain situations. Is it different when a school gets negative publicity and how they handle it compared to when a company does?
The fundamentals are the same, but in working a lot with higher ed, the way that they're perceived by their audiences is different because of the emotional connection that we have to our schools. And the amount of money now that it costs to go to school, it's one of the biggest purchases that somebody's ever going to make.
Right.
So there's a deep emotional connection, whether you're a student, whether you're an alum, you're a parent, an employee, and that's something that higher ed needs to really consider when looking at these things. The nexus of higher education and politics is combustible right now, and we saw that on Capitol Hill in the fall, and we're going to see it again sooner or later. It's important for colleges and universities to remember the place that they have in our society right now.
All right, such an interesting conversation. I know we could go on and on. We'll have to have you both back, but we appreciate it.